Like you want to know, okay, how much is needed, how it's secured, like who are you, like like what's your credibility and what's my returns are going to be. But it's the security aspect of where like, hey, are you sure like if everything goes wrong, like am I at least gonna be able to make my money back? Where like with stocks and bonds, like you can really lose everything. You can lose everything in real estate as well, but that's more so just not doing the proper due diligence, not really knowing what you're doing.
You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Downloadable audio episodes can be found in the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie, as well as Calls on Call Extraordinary Answering Service and the Bold Business Book. Today, we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Larry Pendleton, CPA and tax investment coach. So, Larry, how is it going today?
It's going great, James. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better now because it's interesting. We're talking about taxes. I feel like in a time when we're thinking about next year. A few months ago, I was angry thinking that my accountant wasn't doing essentially what I thought he should have been doing. In the end, I learned after the fact that accountants just play with or work with the numbers that you give them. They don't necessarily come up with strategies and stuff like that. So he's doing his job. I just didn't know exactly what his job entailed. So I appreciate you being on the show.
No, no, like grateful opportunity. So looking forward to this.
Yeah, let's start with what is the coaching that you do?
So it's kind of a play on. I'm a former athlete, and to your point, where it's like accountants, people just typically like, hey, I just meet with my accountant during tax season, but the numbers are the numbers from the prior year, so it's this that advisory role, but it's like, yeah, I can advise you, but like, how do you really like apply these strategies? Is like that's where the coaching aspect of where I have to train you in a way to like how to really leverage the tax code to best maximize it. Like I can just tell you all the strategies. You can Google all the strategies out there, just TikTok and all that, do a lot of that for you. But how to implement that stuff, that's when the coaching comes into play there, and merging the worlds of the boring accountant with the sexy investor, and I bring it, I kind of sit in the middle there.
Fair. So how did you end up in this role? Because going from athlete to a CPA is probably not a path most people take.
Well, actually, I've been in the mindset of an accountant since high school, due to a teacher I had a crush on. Didn't work out, but it's stuck
Ah,
with me.
that's awesome.
So, but I've always been really big on numbers, and then my dad had a small business, HVAC business growing up, and besides cursing his football team, he always cursed taxes. So it was like, hey, how can I help him? So just always kind of at an early age, been kind of interested, like there seemed to be a need that he needs. And then once I got to college and started to meet other people, okay, there's a lot of people that have this issue with accounting and taxes, and I can probably find a way to help serve in that capacity.
Nice. I love that it all originated from a crush you had on a teacher in high school. That is safe to say one of the most surprising things I've ever had for someone driving to go into a certain field. That's funny. That's is she still around?
Yeah, she's still around. Like I said, like we cool, we laugh about it, but that's about it.
I got into being a CPA because of a girl. That's amazing. That is
Got to start
amazing.
somewhere.
Right, fair, totally fair. So tell me, how do you end up in the coaching world versus just being the guy with the calculator, pushing, filling out the 1040s and all that jazz, like the
Well,
accountants that I end up complaining about?
well, as and I'm guilty as many accountants. What we typically do is that we go into public accounting and we kind of just run the corporate mill, from that standpoint, and then we step out and like, hey, I can do this. I know I have clients and stuff, that will work with me and start my own business, start my own firm, and that was going okay for a while. But when I wanted to kind of work with more investors, because we started investing in real estate ourselves, It was a crossroads that I had to really kind of come I came to where it's like, hey, like I need to really be doing more advisory work versus just preparing tax returns and not just doing bookkeeping. And you start to kind of realize that there's different aspects similar to doctors and attorneys. There's different types of accountants and different type of CPAs depending on what you're looking for. So if I wanted to grow and evolve, I had to get out of this comfort zone of just being a January through April accountant and be more of a year-round advisor for my clients. And then the coaching aspect of it kind of came in where it's like the people send me videos, like TikTok videos all the time and Instagram videos like, hey, can I do this? And like, well, no, you can't do that, or that you doesn't apply. So it's always a lot of no's, but it's like, hey, how can I get you to that point where like it may start with a no, not right now, but because you're not doing X, Y, and Z. So the coaching kind of came a spun off of the advisory where it's like I can tell you all these things that you could do, but are you in position to do that? Like everybody wants to be a real estate professional. Do you know what that takes? Like, are you willing to scale back from your job, or you and your spouse, or are you willing to quit your W-2 and you all live off of one one salary so that you can qualify and get these benefits if this tax burden is what you're concerned with? Are you willing to move to a whole different state? And if that's the case, all right, what states do you consider the movement to? Because just because you move from California to Texas, yes, there's less income taxes, but you got high property taxes in Texas. But it's like how like it's so I can advise you, but it's like let's walk this through instead of me giving you a tax plan. Like let's actually like talk this stuff through and touch base throughout the year and see how this is actually working out for you and learn and adjust from there.
That's interesting. I love it. It's interesting you mentioned the real estate professional thing. I was just digging into that yesterday, like literally yesterday, digging into what does it take to be a real estate professional. Because I thought it can't be that hard. I know some complete morons that are real estate agents, right? But then I learned what the rules of the game are as far as the IRS is concerned for what it takes to be a real estate professional. And then I'm like, I guess that's not my game. I guess it's,
Yeah, and it also kind of goes to like with the real estate professional status, like that's just one piece. Like
mm-hmm.
now you have to have properties that generating losses to actually put it to use. Because I have a lot of real estate agents as clients, a lot of brokers, but they don't own rental properties. They're real estate professionals, and for that I get them a like congratulations, but it doesn't do anything if you don't
It's of no use.
if you're not out there investing and buying properties for yourself. So it's making sure people have the full picture view of what this is. So for me, the more people know, the better they can adjust and can act accordingly from there if they have the right information in their pocket.
Fair. So tell me, when you got into real estate investing, did you get into real estate investing because you were doing the CPA thing and saw like, holy cow, there's tons of opportunity there? Or is the real estate investing more, hey, I want some passive income? And then you learned after the fact there's all these tax benefits for that.
Well, I always knew the tax benefits, but I personally, I had a limited mindset at the time that I didn't think I could be an investor myself. And it took
Oh,
my partner, Terry on Connery, who's a Class A contractor. He was already in real estate, and he's like, Larry, you know the numbers. You just got to put the right team around you to actually execute this. And basically, I needed that kick in the butt to actually get out of that mindset. And it's like, yeah, I can actually do this, and then take some lumps around along the way. Because a lot of accountants were also risk averse. Like you also got to get out of that shell as well. Like you try to mitigate as much you can, but you got to put yourself out there and take some chances.
all right. And the real estate that you decided or chose to invest in originally, was that residential or commercial?
Residential. So
Okay.
my first property was a single family townhome. Uh, it was, I mean, for years it was giving like producing $200-300 a month in net cash flow, until we sold it for a good amount during these prices were kind of out the roof these past couple of years. Um, but yeah, I got a big headed on that one because it went so well. Property manager, we had tenant right in right away. and then started trying to get into the flipping world, and then that was a reality check for me with how to learn how to vet contractors, not doing anything, trying to be cheap or trying to do everything yourself, especially if you're trying to balance. Because I still had a W-2, I still was running the tax business, my own tax business, and having a family as well. So it's like, okay, learning how to build teams, vet people, and manage my time in a better way, and be more appreciative of my time, and not trying to do every single thing, because that's not my strong suit.
Fair, totally fair. You know, we had a guy on the show, I don't know, a few episodes ago. He's talking about real estate investing, and he told the story about how he was repainting the interior of one of the rental properties that he had, and his wife and son were at the park, and they called up and like, "Hey, you coming to the park?" And he's like, "No, I got to finish up this painting." And he hung up the phone with them, and he was thinking, "What am I painting this thing for? I'm painting this thing so that I can have free time to spend with my wife and kid. Yet here I am painting the inside of this building while they're off playing, asking me when I'm going to be there." So it ends up to be somewhat of a conundrum that you got to figure out.
Yeah, and it's that push for financial freedom, and like, yes, you gotta put some time into it, and there'll be things that you missed, but that aspect of, and I think it's Dan Sullivan and Who Not How, like having the right who's, having the right people around you that can do things. And for me, as long as everyone can eat at the table, like I can make sure like the returns and stuff make sense for everybody involved. And it's like, hey, I'm not losing my shirt. I'm like, okay, I can, at least I'm making this amount. I can pay out everything else and just outsource stuff, so I can rinse and repeat this. I can scale at that point. It's like I can't scale if I'm managing my own properties and doing everything else as well.
Fair, totally fair. So let's talk about the team you mentioned, especially in regards to flipping houses. You're dealing with contractors even when you live in the house or you want to remodel your kitchen, bathroom, something like that. I have heard very few stories about customers of contractors that were just like, this guy was awesome to work with. I loved every step of the way. He came in under budget and on time. That is never the story that you hear. So tell me about your experience flipping houses and working with contractors and subcontractors and all that.
Yeah, mine came from a referral for someone else, but it was actually, come to find out, it was a glorified handyman. It wasn't really a true contractor. Like a lot of corners cut from that standpoint, and we were over budgeted, and very fortunate to able to get out of that property, get our investors paid, get their money back. Like, I didn't make any money on it, and was very grateful not to lose my shirt on that standpoint. But actually taking the time to not just rush because, okay, this person I liked and they recommend this person. Okay, well, let's still get some other feedback, like what project you actually, have you done something like this where we gotta take out a wall, and reconfigure the house to make it more open space from that standpoint. Like, there's a lot of different things uh that I kind of let slide through, or just kind of let happen, because I was trying to squeeze every penny out of it, and go the cheap route. Whereas, okay, even if I had someone who was two times as much, like, we would have made a good profit off of it, and would have been done right and been less stressful from there. So it was a lot of family stress that caused, even because getting my dad involved from that standpoint. And so, and even my own immediate family as well. So it was a humbling experience, knowing that, like, hey, I gotta be able to kind of find the right people to trust, instead of finding someone that I halfway trust and I gotta oversee every step of the way. And it's like, hey, that's not how this is supposed to be.
Fair, totally fair. So have you grown now to the point that you have staff that's actually doing work like that? Or
Yeah,
you're not
so
dealing with flipping property at all now, maybe?
So yeah, so we're not in the flipping property. It's been a few years since we did that. We do more new construction now. Like I said, and now, like I said, got my trusted partner now, who is a Class A contractor, does everything by the books. We split everything, nearly 50-50 most of the time. So we buy land, and just do new construction for single family residences at this time now where we are.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah,
Tell me,
it's a lot easier, especially when the price started going up. It became cheaper just to build instead of potentially dealing with someone else's headache.
you know, it is so interesting that you say that because I've been looking at real estate. I've been watching it for a while, trying to figure out like when do I jump in the pool of the residential side of investment real estate, looking at different towns, and I'm looking at the price of construction. I'm like, I don't, it almost seems to make more sense to build rather than buy a lot of this stuff. I don't know. I feel like there was a point in my life after 2008 and then going forward from there where I was like, I kind of understand how pricing works for real estate. But the
Mhm.
last 3 years, I'm like, I don't know a thing. I don't know a thing about how the market is priced the way it is. When interest rates go up, they triple essentially over the course of less than a year, but the prices go up whatever 20, 30% over that same time period.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know anymore. I don't know.
yeah, it's and there's always a different way in real estate. You just have there's always a constant adjusting to okay what the market is saying at this point. So because like I say, because we were looking into commercial ourselves and dabbling in that space, and but more so of can we do more new construction, uh, commercial space, mixed use, where we still have a housing crisis in the country, but like can we still kind of mix in getting a solid commercial space downstairs and um, 3, 4 levels of apartments above it. And help revitalize a lot of downtown areas that we're associated with. So like it's just kind of finding what works for you from that standpoint, and for me being an accountant and knowing that okay, if I have my budget. I'm gonna stick. I want my team to stick to the best they can. I know there's more gray area. Okay, once we put this hammer through this wall, okay, or is it how bad is our budget gonna blow up once we actually started kind of digging into these flips? Whereas like, hey, stuff may kind of like vary a bit from a new construction, but like we know we're going to be somewhere where we are per square foot with the pricing at that point. There is just now dealing with insurance rates stuff right now, and working with private lenders on the lending side so that we can kind of get our traditional financing and then really empower other people to be their own bank at that point.
Nice. Tell me, why would you? I mean, I guess I can speculate a little bit, but tell me, why would you move away from the typical bank credit union loans versus going with private lending where you're having to actually, I don't know, more or less sell the project to different investors?
I feel like you still have to sell the project to the bank as well, and you have to either way you gotta sell the project and you gotta sell yourself. And I feel like we was constantly going through the same hoops and hurdles. And it's like, okay, we've done all these projects, we have all these years experience with new construction and in real estate, but every time we turn around, we gotta basically get out the same documents over and over again. It's just cheaper money, but like the amount of red tape that we have to go through just didn't make sense. But I also knew people who were, especially a lot of clients who got money in their retirement accounts and converting them over into self-directing accounts where like they're trying to find different ways to grow it. And it's like, okay, well, there's an opportunity here to educate more people about stuff like this, especially those who aren't familiar with syndications and funds that I've been part of as well. Where it's like, you can basically do the exact same thing what the bank does, which is basically lend from the from the Fed and charge you an additional interest rate, where like you basically take your money out the bank and or however retirement account where you feel comfortable with, and that's your investment. Just make sure it's secured from that standpoint. So either way, we're selling to somebody, whether it's going to be traditional bankers like I much rather pay a little bit extra more from an interest and point standpoint to work with individual, knowing that I have that repeat lender going forward.
All right. So essentially, you get an investor, they work with you on a project, that project comes and goes, and the investor's like, keep feeding me, man, I'll keep feeding you, kind of thing. Because
Basically,
there's a
yeah.
trust involved.
Yeah, you actually it's an individual trust of a trust within this system with a financial institution. which it has its pros and its cons as with the private lender side as well. I just like that component of that personal feel with that individual, and it's like, hey, I've got to make sure I do right by this lady, because she has entrusted us with her funds.
Got it. Now you mentioned this, and I want to dig into this a little deeper if you don't mind, because I feel like you're the guy that would know the answer to this. Tell me
Mhm.
more about the self-directed retirement stuff.
Yeah, so everyone's familiar with your job may have a 401k. Everyone knows you can get a IRA, but if you're going through Fidelity, or any of the the Merrill Lynch's of the world, you're kind of trapped to just stocks and bonds that they allow you to invest into. You really can't invest into real estate. They say you can, but it's more so through REITs, which is just trust, or the same as just stocks and bonds through a public company that's buying real estate itself. If you're able to work with a lot of companies, directed IRA, Advantage, Equity Quest, a lot of good companies, you can convert those into a self-directing retirement account. Then you're allowed to really tell that custodian, hey, I want to move this, I want to invest into this company, or I want to buy this real estate. Now there are certain tax implications, and you're not allowed to really personally benefit from it, and it has some penalties and taxes associated with it. That's why you have to be more still passive with it, and you're not really building any cash flow or money that you can use right now. It still have to be used when you're retired. But that's what the self-directing allow you to grow your account with stuff that you know and that you understand, instead of just what one entity is telling you that you have to invest into.
So it's interesting you say that because I didn't know that self-directed was even a thing until 2 years ago. And I was chatting with my CPA, like, tell me more about the self-directed thing. And he was kind of nonchalant, like, it's a thing. You can invest in real estate and stuff like that. And here I am thinking, wait a second. This seems like a huge deal that is, I feel like it would be way more productive than going through the stock market where they just say, throw this stuff in mutual funds or ETFs or whatever, pick your stocks and hope for the best. And then you see real estate going up. And I feel like there's never going to be a time when people are going to say, you know what, I don't need a house anymore, or at least not the great majority, right? So
Yeah,
real estate's always going to be a thing. And
yeah.
I don't know that I've ever come across, well, I can tell you for sure that I personally have not come across anyone that said, these are the steps for how you do that. So can you kind of break that down, I guess, as broadly as you can?
Yeah, so one is, 'cause you can go to a company that offers self-directing and can open one up, or if you're having to, or they can work with you on rolling over old employers retirement account. Now, if you're currently working for a company, and you're most likely not going to be able to roll that active one over, so it's stuff that's kind of more old, or you have an inherited IRA that you have, and roll those funds over. And then pretty similar, your people are pitching their deals to you, and you're trying for, hey, like, what's going to help you grow your retirement account. So you got something that's actually going to go into invest into your nest egg. I actually was meeting with a client this morning about that, where he wants to use one retirement account for more short-term investments, and he wants to use a different retirement account for longer holds, because of the one retirement account was inherited. He wanted that to be more like short-term stuff, coming quick in and out, from that standpoint. Then you're then coordinating with your custodian. We're like, hey, pay these funds out to this deal operator, whether they're as a most likely you're doing it either as a loan, like you're loaning them the funds to do it, and they're paying back into your retirement account with interest, or you're investing into it as a limited partner, or as a passive equity partner in the deal. The money still is all going to go back into the retirement account. You can't pull that money out without dealing with early withdrawal penalties and taxes associated there. So really, like, it's the the lender or the partner into the deal itself is your retirement account, but it's directed by you. The custodian is just, I mean, they have their fees associated, but like they're just doing what you're like telling them to do. From that standpoint, you may have some custodians that may like, hey, this deal doesn't look doesn't look up to par, or there's some information that's missing, so they can kind of help out with that piece of it there. But that's really what it is that you're providing instructions to the custodian to what to put your fund in. You can still put your money into stocks and bonds, like it doesn't stop you from doing that. You just have other options, whether it's stocks and bonds, real estate, crypto. Like I say, I'm trying to use mine to do more buying mortgage notes for one of mine, and start to kind of like build more cash flow. That's going to be kind of help build that up on the same time as well as use other funds for that I can use it for cash flow purposes personally. So that's the general premise of it. There is that you're allowed to have control of where the funds go into. People still pitching through you, but then like there's documents and all that make sure it has to be signed to say, hey, this is going to go here. Make sure the payments are going back. Understanding the type of income that is being sent back in, because you may have to deal with certain taxes within the retirement account itself, because it ends up becoming its own separate entity
Oh,
uh, that you're controlling from that angle. But the money that's come in, like you're not filing personal tax returns for that income. It will be possibly in that retirement account, depending how much and the type of income that's coming in.
got it. And type of income that's dependent on if it's rent or residual stuff like that
Yeah, whether it's
versus the
rent,
sale
like
of a.
passive income, or like yeah, capital gains, or if it's like hey, if it is getting like active income, where it's like hey, it's actually getting active shares, which it should not be because it should be passive from that standpoint, and to be in compliance with the IRS really want people to do is to if people to let this money grow for their golden years from
Okay.
that standpoint. So, but depending on because and part of it is like you just can't buy like a McDonald's franchise. I'm not sure why I'm picking on them right now. It's just the name that popped in my head right now. But like you what I do as people hear about like UBIT taxes, like unrelated business income tax, where like hey, you're running a business out of this retirement account. That's what it's not for. So you're dealing with some high taxes if you're doing stuff like that. But you can
Gotcha.
avoid that if you're uh, dealing with more just rental property. Like you're not flipping the property within the retirement account. You may just being the lender of the person that's flipping the doing the flipping that you're not doing yourself. Like you're not supposed to be actively involved with anything that the retirement account owns.
All right. Why do you think, and this is just purely my speculation, I don't know, but I feel like the whole self directed thing, I don't feel like that's really promoted as much as just stick the money in your retirement account. You got your stocks or your mutual funds or whatever, and just watch it grow or hope it grows. Don't pay attention to it. I feel like that's the story that we're being told versus, hey, you can do the self directed thing where you're actually the options that you have for what you're investing in for your retirement are
Hmm.
actually huge. It's not listed or limited, I should say, to stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff. You have all these other things that you can invest in. And I feel like that it's a way more interesting story, I guess, to invest in all these other things instead of just like, oh, I got to invest in the stock market, which is, if you're not interested in it, it's kind of boring. I talked to my wife about the investment stuff and I'm like, when's the last time you actually looked at your retirement account? She's like, why would I look at my retirement account?
Yeah,
And from my
because
point of view, I'm like, that's a big deal. It's a lot of money kind of thing, right? It's
yeah,
growing over time. You want to make sure that you're on the right path. And she just
yeah.
kind of shrugs her shoulders, like, I don't know. So I'm wondering if you have an idea about why the story is kind of like just give us your money, slap it in your retirement account, and don't look at it, versus hey, there's opportunity here to get your money to actually work more for you.
Yeah, Bill, it kind of leans it, and I'm not getting into conspiracy theories right now. Where it's like Wall Street basically is running this show, where it's like, hey, the promotions and all that, the Merrill Lynch's and Fidelity's of the world, like what they're getting paid, like they're getting commissions based off of people putting their money into Wall Street, and then that's ingrained into the culture itself, and just ride the wave, like. like it's there's going to be ups and downs with the stock market, like, and it's kind of like it's hands off. You don't got to worry about it, so forth and so forth. Where the self directing, like I said, it's not new. Like, I'm not telling anyone anything that's brand new. Like this has been going on for longer than I've been alive, and I'm 40. So
Wow. Okay.
this aspect of like hey, this is not promoted as much because the custodian isn't paid as much. Like they're not making money off of the deals itself. They're just making their fees. So like they don't have this huge um engine that's funneling the propaganda to go into self or the marketing go into self-directing from that angle there. And there's a small population of an old guard that does self-directing that they doesn't want the the masses to know because it'll possibly dilute the value of it. But like that's a very small piece of it there. But I think the major piece of it is that the Wall Street engine that drives everything in this kind of drives a lot of what's going on in this country. That's what's being pushed out and what we kind of have settled to believe, as well as the whole aspect of go to school, get a job, and retire with a gold watch after 70 years, something like like that. So it just all kind of feeds into that. And that's my opinion on that.
All right. I don't think they have anything to worry about because I feel like there's people like my wife who are just like, what is the easiest way? I don't care if it makes me whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars less, as long as it's easy and I don't have to care about it, I'm fine. For me, I'm like, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's when you break it
Yeah,
down per hour. That's
because you
crazy
could.
awesome money.
Yeah, because you're most likely because if you're in control and people having to pitch you like their deal, and I tell when I talk to investors, like you want to know, okay, how much is needed, how it's secured, like who are you, like like what's your credibility and what's my returns are going to be. But it's the security aspect of where like, hey, are you sure like if everything goes wrong, like am I at least gonna be able to make my money back? Where like with stocks and bonds, like you can really lose everything. You can lose everything in real estate as well, but that's more so just not doing the proper due diligence, not really knowing what you're doing
Right.
from there. Like you can have people just overpaying for stuff. It's like, hey, that's how you lost your money. Like you gave yourself no you gave yourself no equity in the deal when you bought it. But you should have a hard tangible asset where if anything goes wrong, okay, you can just get that and make your money back based off of the selling at the bare minimum at that point.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of vehicles. I like to buy and sell cars and motorcycles and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
always like to get a deal on it. And the reason, I guess, one, because I just like to get a deal on everything. And two is because it's not necessarily a need. So, but if push came to shove and a bad day happened to 2008, whatever, and you needed to get out of it, I want to be able to sell that thing and not take a huge hit.
Mhm.
So it's one of those, hey, I want to win the deal just because you win the deal. That's kind of the entrepreneurial mindset. But you also want to be able to get out of it without losing your shirt, kind of thing, if you ever needed to. So
Exactly.
yeah, I get where you're coming from. Tell me how do you find a custodian?
So there's and like there's power of social media like Google, like self-directing custodians, like and 100 of them going to pop up
Okay.
from there. You may even have some of the custodians that don't do self-directing. They'll still pop up. So it's really just having like those can like having those resources and really just getting into different networking events and stuff like that. I know there's one coming up in this month called QuestCon, and that's one of the self-directed custodians that are out there. And but it's you start to get around more people who know about self-directing. It's okay, well, they're using equity trust, and this person is using directed IRA, and this person using so and so over here. But like, okay, it's just okay, which fees and all that and easy conversion. That's people have to make determination of what works best for them there.
All right. And as far as how the custodian makes money, is it a percentage of the investment or is it typically flat fee or hourly or
It's
how do
really
you end up
basically
paying
flat.
them?
It's basically flat fee based off of like your account itself. So they don't make any money off of the actual deals that you're going into. So it's really based on like fees and how much money that's really in your account.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that. I'll just tell you a really quick anecdotal story here. I had learned maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 years about Vanguard. And I'm like, what is this all about? Anyways, I look at my retirement, what I got, and I looked at the fees that I was being charged by my retirement guy. And I look at Vanguard, and then I look at what the retirement guy had me plugged into, which was basically just index funds, which is fine. It's actually pretty good. Vanguard index funds. And then I look at the percentage difference. I'm paying this guy 2.5%. Vanguard, I'm paying like 0.03% or whatever it was. And so I moved them. And the financial planner guy calls me up and he's like, James, why'd you move all your stuff? And I was like, well, here's the situation. Index fund. These look like commodities to me. So anytime something's commodity, I'm just going to go with the lower priced one. And he's like, oh. And I'm like, if you can justify the price difference, because maybe I don't know everything. I'm certain I don't know everything. Tell
Mm-hmm.
me, what am I getting for that 2+% for you? And he's like, anytime you want to call me, I'm here. I'm like, why do I need to call you? I'm in index funds. Like, what are you gonna tell me? And I'm like, give me something more. Like, you give me a fancy pen. Like, what am I getting for this? What's gonna turn out to be thousands of dollars over the course of time?
Right.
And he had nothing. He got nothing. So it's interesting to me how I'm like, why don't people? Why isn't this more? I hate to play the victim or talk about being the victim or something like that, but I feel like this should be one of those things when they say, "Hey, throw money in retirement," and "Hey, these are your options." I feel like the education that we're getting is just like, "Hey, throw money in retirement." Period. You figure it out, kind of thing. And there's so many opportunities. It's like playing Monopoly, but they don't tell you about Park Place. They just tell you about Baltic Avenue. You don't need to know the rest. It gets confusing.
It's a good analogy.
So at any rate, I'm learning about Park Place by interviewing people like you. So I appreciate you being on the show here.
No, I'm glad. Hopefully this was helpful.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. Let's dig into the whole tax side. Can you
Hmm.
tell us, I don't top three mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make as far as taxes go, or maybe even if they're not mistakes, just oversights, things that they're not even aware of?
One is the bookkeeping is a huge piece, and I understand that it's not the sexiest thing in the world, and it's boring and dull, and I completely get it. I understand because it's boring and dull to me as well. But like that piece there was like, hey, how do we know what you can write off if it's everything is not there? Like just and having the support and receipts and invoices so that like, hey, if anything does happen, we got support. We don't have to worry about it there. So like that's the biggest thing because people either try to do it themselves and they halfway do it or they try to bring in the bookkeeper but it's someone who's just very green and they're just really cheap and they're doing this same type of work for 1,000 other people so they're halfway doing stuff so it's like just kind of understand like what are you willing to budget for and like what are you willing to kind of put the time into or just leveraging technology as well, whether it's Waves or QuickBooks or Stessa. There's so many different accounting softwares that can kind of help ease that burden for a lot of people. But that's the number one, probably one, two, and three. If I had to kind of list it out because it goes deeper um into stuff like that. Number two is really kind of get into the planning aspect of it, where it's like hey, like don't just reach out to your person during tax season because it's too late at that point. Like it's like you really have to be reaching out to your person because the way we're structured, like I just don't randomly just call my clients throughout the year because if I just call you, nothing's going on. Was like, hey, was not what we're going to talk about. Like, hope the kids are doing well, but that's about it.
The weather's
But
nice, right?
but yeah, but I try to incentivize my clients to reach out like throughout the year as frequently as they can because one, you already paid for a 12 month package. Like use and bruise me as much as you can because I don't know what you got going on. And if you didn't tell me 7 months later that you bought and sold this property, like, okay, well, it's too late to do a 1031 at this point. So, for example, so it's stuff like that was like get involved and like making that time, whether it's a quarterly, at least quarterly. meetings with your tax advisor, with a tax advisor, to ensure that that you're in the right path and can know what your potential tax liability is and what your options are from there. So that's probably the number two behind the bookkeeping from there. And then number three is more often than not, people are letting the tax tail wag the investment dog or the financial investment dog itself, which is like, hey, that's just don't pay for stuff just for the tax benefits. Like people hear about Grant Cardone buying a jet and writing off the jet. Okay, cool. He It's great that he has the money to do that. But that's a one-time big deduction expense. There's gas, there's insurance, there's a was it paid with a more with debt, so now we got interest. Like, hey, that stuff's written off, but the big deduction came in year one. Does your business support these large purchases? And a lot of people got into the 6,000 pound vehicle and buying G-Wagons. Like, hey, is that a financially good decision for you? And that's for me, that's where the okay, yes, it's a great tax benefit, but investment wise, it doesn't make sense for you. Your monthly note is going to be $600, and that's and that's going to be 80% of your monthly payment of your income that you got coming in from your business. Like that doesn't make sense just to get this 1 year write off. So understanding the full ramifications of can we get deductions? Yes, but like, is it going to be a strain on your business in the long term? Or if you're trying to get the short-term rental loophole that people try to get into because they can't qualify for real estate professional status. Where it's like, okay, great, you can try to get the short-term rental. Do you know what it takes to run a short-term rental? We have six of them, and I just like I don't want any parts of it. Like I'll find another way to find deductions. Like I don't want any like I'll take the cash flow, but I'm not going to try to meet this standard just for this benefit and hate my life for it for 18 months. So it's not worth it for me personally. So people have the discussions with themselves, like know who they are, understand like is all of that worth the tax savings.
All right. So the headache versus the
Yeah,
cash
yeah,
savings.
yeah. Headache versus tax savings, or is like the cost of doing something. Okay, the tax savings is going to be this, going to be 30 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar. Like, is that really worth it? From there, or if the cost of doing something outweighed the actual tax savings. So you had a net loss. You got the tax savings, but you end up paying more in compliance costs.
Oh, that's fair.
So there's
Fair.
situations like that, and that comes with like S corp elections and stuff like that. Where like you have to understand the full picture, not just hey, if you do this, you're gonna say this much of taxes, but it comes with this, and this. Do you really want all of that?
Hmm.
And for me, like I'm aware of it, and I feel like I'm not doing you I'm not doing right by you just by telling you the tax savings without telling you the full picture, because that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Gotcha. Tell me, it's funny, just side thing. It reminds me when I was chatting with my accountant about buying a vehicle through the business. And for me, I could not in my head, I could not make the numbers work. Like the write offs were cool and all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, just because the write off doesn't mean that money's free. Like you could argue that it's discounted because you're reducing your total tax bill. But in the end, that car's got to be paid for by someone, and that someone is you. So I didn't even know anything about the Grant Cardone jet thing. That's funny. Jets aren't cheap. I got friends that are private pilots. They're doing okay and they don't work for free. So
Yeah,
that
so
is interesting.
yeah, that's huge because like that aspect, like you got the interest, you got the insurance, you got property taxes, and God forbid you put the vehicle in the business name, that's worse than personal property taxes. So all of that has to be taken into account. And is your business generating enough income to support that on an ongoing basis? or is that
Mhm.
just going to be a strain because now you just have a luxury? That's
Right.
really what it is. It's just a luxury at that point. And now you got the headache of now you got to track your mileage. Make sure you got the mileage log in place. You got all the receipts and invoices now. Like, okay, now you got the cost, but now you got this additional work that you have to do in order to do it. It could be worth it. I'm not saying that it's not, but make sure that you have ran through all of that and have a full understanding of it instead of just, hey, I saw this on Facebook and I want to do it.
So on the internet, it must be good.
Exactly.
Tell me, so the people that you are working with, can you paint me a picture about the typical client that you work with?
Um,
Is there a typical client that you work with?
More so in a mindset aspect, not so much in like what they do. We got clients who own 70 properties. We got clients who own no property, but they do construction. In their business. We got clients who run syndications, but all of them have this similar mindset of there's an entrepreneurial aspect to it, but and if everyone kind of follows the Robert Kiyosaki four quadrants, for me, everyone is like mentally they're in they want to be an investor because they don't have to worry about running a business. Like all our clients have the mindset like I want to get to a point where like I'm just an investor and my money is working for me. And that's the mindset of majority of our clients is that they're either at that point or they're trying to get to that point. And that's crucial because it's like that's where for me I prefer just to be in the I quadrant all day every day, and that's because that's true financial freedom at that point, and
Fair.
be able to like not miss stuff with my kids and my family, and be able to kind of do what I do from anywhere and not worry about having to be the CEO of a company, and build all these systems and processes and make sure that everything and hiring people like I much rather be the investor. That's kind of like the mindset of our client of most of our clients is that.
All right. And are most of them in the real estate investment game?
Yeah, about 85% of our clients are in real estate one way or another.
Okay.
They're either flippers, contractors, agents, brokers, investors, syndicators. Like they're 85% are somewhere involved touching real estate one way or another.
All right. And is it to the point where you are coaching them on taxes and investments as well as doing their taxes for them, or is that two separate things?
Both. So like we have, I'd say probably about only about less than 15% of our clients like we're just only doing the coaching for.
Okay.
They say everyone else we're most likely doing their taxes as well. But I like I said, I'm always in position, but people have a person already that they know, like and trust. They're missing something, and it's that coaching advisory piece of it. And I tell them, I don't want to take you away from your person. Like keep your person. It's almost like everyone enjoys a rum and coke. Like that's your person. Like they been consistent for you, but every now and then you need an extra shot of rum in there. Let me be that extra shot of rum.
Ah, that is totally fair. I love that.
So it's
Oh,
like
I love
so
that.
we if we can build the business where like we're primarily just only doing the coaching and without the tax, cause we actually coach other tax professionals as well. Like here's how the tax return should look if you're gonna do this cost segregation study. Here's how the depreciation, the bonus all applies to it from there. How it needs to be set up because not all tax preparers know that, and that's completely fine. Um, because I tell people like similar to attorneys, similar to doctors, accountants are the same way. Like everyone's different, and it's no one's better than anyone. It's just everyone specializes in different things. This is what like real estate is what we specialize in.
Got it. Oh, true story there. When I first started my business, we're talking 2006, I started my first real business. And I thought, incorrectly, of course, that a bookkeeper, an accountant, and I didn't even know a tax strategist was a thing, but I thought all three of those people were the same person. Like, hey, numbers and taxes, you're one of those people kind of thing. And then I learned very expensively. I mean, education's expensive, right? That those are not the same people. And even though I guess just because you believe they're the same people doesn't just magically make them the same people.
Now
So
they,
you
they,
mentioned,
they all could be for those who are doing like all three things. Like it's, I mean, and that's why there's public accounting firms where like you have the experts of these different areas, and then they come together and create a firm. Because there's very few that want to do all three. Cause that's like because you're really involved with that person like all year round and day to day, month to month with the bookkeeping, and then making sure that it aligns with the tax strategy. Like I seen many accountants get burnt out trying to be that all in one package for somebody. And it's like I said, it just doesn't really pan out in the long term that well for that individual. So I mean, it could be all in one person, but most likely there's going to be at least two people. Like it's going to be your bookkeeper, who's going to be your accountant, and then your actual tax strategist would also possibly be doing your tax filing as well.
okay, where do you or where does your company fit in there?
More so the tax strategy and tax filing. Like
Gotcha.
we don't do any bookkeeping.
Okay. All right. Now I imagine you have a team that's doing a lot of this, right?
Yeah, so got five at five right now, and like I said, they work like hamsters, do a lot of the grunt work with the data entry stuff for the tax return, but that allows me to focus on the strategies and meeting with our clients. Because I enjoy meeting with our clients, especially because they're mostly in real estate, because I'm curious about the different deals that they got going on because I may want a piece of it
Oh, nice.
myself. So I'm not opposed to partnering with my clients on certain deals or let them know stuff that we're working on and see if they want to jump in on stuff that we have in place and be more than just a tax person to them.
Fair. Is it so going into that with your team? How tough is it to find someone that's got that mindset of the CPA mindset, but also the tax strategist mindset?
I mean, it's difficult, and I have a network of other other accountants and strategists such as me, where like we would never work for each other because like we know we'd probably be too expensive to pay the other person. But you do need the got to be like I have a bookkeeper. And it was like, but your accountant, like, yeah, like I have a bookkeeper. Like that doesn't mean like I can't have a bookkeeper. Because like I could be a surgeon, that means I'm gonna do my own surgeries. Like it's the same thing. Like
Right.
I have I have someone who's focused and specialized in that. Like that's not my focus, and my specialty is not in the bookkeeping. So like a lot of my team is in that mindset where okay, they can get into the weeds and make sure like hey at a micro level that we're covered, and I make sure that at the macro level that we're still in line with what the big picture is.
Fair. Totally fair. You mentioned cost segregation. Cost segregation is something that I've been through two accountants over the past, I don't know, dozen years. Um, I didn't even know cost segregation was a thing. I brought it, so I have a commercial property. I brought it up to my most recent accountant a few months ago because I saw it on a YouTube video. And I was like, wait, cost segregation? What is that? So I asked my accountant guy, like, hey, we got this building. We've been working on it for a while. Tell me about cost segregation. And he's like, oh, you could do that, but then you gotta pay a guy to break it down, to segregate everything. And I'm like, well, based on what I'd have to pay that person versus the tax savings, can you give me a rough idea? And basically the number was, I mean, it was crazy. It was like, yeah, a few grand here, save you 30 grand here, or you would end up paying that much less in taxes. And I said, I feel like I would make that trade all freaking day. Why? Why didn't this, like, why don't we bring this up now instead of, I don't know, October? Like, I was asking about it in February, and he's like, oh, you could do that moving forward, kind of thing. So I don't know if there's anything besides the cost segregation thing that when somebody gets into a real estate investment, I don't know. Let's just talk about top three things for tax strategies that real estate investors may or may not know.
Mhm. Yeah, so with the call say it's always been around, but it got real popular when Trump did his tax changes in 2017 because of the 100% bonus depreciation. But the cost savings has always been there because the general premise of the cost segregation study. So, like with a commercial building, it depreciates over 39 years. So you basically get this paper deduction over this 39-year period. But within that building isn't all 39-year property. You may have 5-year property because there's furniture in there. You may have some 15-year property because there's a fence, or the parking lot. That's the land improvement. That's 15-year property. You may have some qualified improvement property. There's also 15-year property as well. So there's other component that depreciates less than 39 years, which creates a large deduction in those earlier years. Like that's the overall general premise of what the cost segregation study's done. So it creates the tax savings from that standpoint. And then Trump came along and basically put kerosene on the fire. It's like, okay, well, if it's depreciating less than 20 years, now you can for the up to 2022 was 100% bonus, and now we're in this 20% sunset over the next 5 years, and we'll see what the government does because it's supposed to be potentially revamping 100% bonus for another 2 years forward and retroactive into 2023. But um, we'll see because it's been kind of sitting at Congress for a while, and we'll see what Biden does if it reaches his desk at that point. So that's the overall benefit, the level. Because I tell people with depreciation, level one is that you get depreciation. Like that's like you're not able to write off the principal of your note, but like you get this extra deduction, which could somewhat be that from that angle. And then the cost set kind of brings in level two, where it's okay, at least break it up into the 5, 15, 10 year, the different buckets that's going to give you some large deductions in those earlier years. And then level three is when we get into the bone depreciation aspect of it as well. And there's section 179 components to it once you can start breaking that stuff out further from there, and other benefits also. But that's the high level what the cost segregation study is doing, or what allows you to potentially do from a tax savings perspective.
Right. And is the idea, I guess, from your point of view, with cost segregation versus non, do you typically do the cost segregation thing, or is there any reason not to?
I mean, it goes back to the same question that you asked your tax person. What is the cost and what is the tax saving? That's the first conversation, because and you nailed it. Like if I'm going to pay a $2,000, but I'm getting $30,000 in tax savings, why aren't we doing this? Um, and then it's also the premise of how long you plan on holding the property as well, because and what's your plan, how long you plan on holding the property, and what is your plans afterwards, because with depreciation, as great as it is a double-edged sword, because when you buying any property that you're holding long term and claim depreciation, you're signing a contract with the government that you're going to be holding this property and providing this housing or this office space for whatever amount of time. Once you sell that property, you now broke that contract with the government, and they want their money back in that depreciation. So you it's that depreciation recapture aspect of it. So a lot of accountants don't like depreciation or like the cost set because of the depreciation recapture. But as an investor, if you know that and you're like, well, I can 1031 and offset it that way, or I can buy another property, do another cost seg, and I can use those losses to offset the gains from the sale, and then in the depreciation recapture standpoint, where like you're all, with taxes as in general, it's a rat race onto itself. Like you're constantly going to be buying into new stuff. And that's what the government wants. They want you to keep reinvesting. You're just not going to buy a couple of properties to be set for life. Like, no, like those benefits go away. and you be taxed, and you be looking for the next property to help offset the taxes. And that's what the government really wants. That's really how to get the money circulating in the economy. And if you're fully aware of that, then you know how to operate and adjust and know what to look for going forward.
Got it. So the cost segregation stuff for the, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the shorter term stuff, carpet or something like that. I don't know if it's 5 or 10 years or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
carpet is really about 5 years.
Okay.
And it goes in there because carpet is 5 years, but if it's hardwood flooring, um, or a permanent tile flooring for office spaces, that's going to be more 39-year prop. So
Okay.
even the type of flooring can adjust from being 39 year to 5 year based off what it is there, and then you got the additional benefits there.
Okay. So in the case of, let's just say carpet, because 5 years. So you get this property, this rental property, whatever. Does that 5 year clock recycle every 5 years, or how does that work?
So
Because in
once
theory, you're replacing your carpet, right?
Yeah, so like let's just say the value, the cost, let's say is 5,000 to make the number simple. So you're basically getting $1,000 depreciation on that carpet for 5 years. Once that 5 year that last 5 years, like that's it at that point. Like there's no more depreciation
Okay.
uh, at that point. So it's just, and now you have this zero value carpet because you fully depreciated at that point.
Gotcha. But the advantage is you're not taking that essentially 5 grand over the course of 39 years and getting your whatever 5 cents of depreciation or whatever each
Right.
year.
Exactly. Exactly.
I remember when I learned about the 39 years, whatever it is, like that seems like an awfully long time. I mean, the building's not just going to crumple and fall down, but like that's a long time.
Yeah, because residential properties, those are 27 and a half years. And I keep looking it up. I keep forgetting why it's a half year, and I'll look it up again. But it's something that I'll read it and like, okay, that's stupid, and I'll just forget about it. But it's like, yeah, that's because no one really holds their properties like really for that long, like unless they're living in it.
Right, that's a
And
long time.
yeah, so I'm always curious about how they come up with stuff like that.
I am certain there was some committee that was arguing for hours, if not days, about that half year. Tell me, maybe even more than 6 months, right? Tell me just
Right.
really quick before I let you go here. Is there any quick, I guess, as far as the investment coach side of you, when you're looking at a real estate deal, is there any algorithm or thing that you have in your head when you look at it, glance at it, whether it's a 1% rule or something like that, where you look at it and say, let's pursue this further, or not a chance?
So, and primarily so the two main things that we're focused on now was land for new construction, um, and and mortgage notes is
Okay.
kind of two focus points. Like we'll get more into rentals if once the market starts to correct itself back in that direction again. So with rentals and with mortgage notes, it's more so like, hey, can we make our money back within 5 years? And then are we getting our minimum return on an investment? And like I said, we'll sometimes we'll put it at 8. That's kind of like, hey, are we getting at least 8%? From if they're we're shooting for higher, but like, hey, are we at least getting that? From that standpoint on an annual basis. So, and we got calculators to get that real quick for us there. So, and then with the new construction and the sale of those is like an all in, can we sell and make at least 70,000 off of what walk away with 70,000?
All right.
Actually, I'm sorry, 60. It's 60. Like can we all in once everything is paid for, can are we able to sell and walk away with $60,000?
All
That
right.
like really quick to the point there that we try to, and then that's the part we like about with the new construction. Like we know what the land is going to be. We know how much we're going to pay for building a home between 1,800 and 2,400 square feet. We know what that cost is going to be. So like, hey, we're going to be all in at the end of the day, probably about $210,000. conserve maybe even a little bit less than that, from that angle. So like, okay, cool. Like, are we able to sell it for 280 and walk away?
Gotcha.
At that point.
All
And
right.
make sure that everyone's paid, that make sure our investors are paid, they got their returns, and we're making a decent profit ourselves.
Nice. Very cool. Larry, I appreciate you being on the show. You shared a lot of information, and I'm certain you're going to have some entrepreneurs just reaching out to you saying, hey, man, my accountant's very good at entering data, but they're not necessarily good at helping me figure out how to make that data turn into something that can actually work for me. So I appreciate your time here.
I appreciate it, James. Great for the opportunity here. So happy to help support anyone who wants to reach out.
Yeah. Where can people find you, Larry?
They can go to my website, www.larrypendletoncpa.com. I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Larry Pendleton CPA. Try to keep it simple as much as
Easy
possible.
enough.
But yeah, on those three social media platforms, and yep, and if they happen to be watching, there's a QR code up here they can scan and get to my page as well.
That QR code is genius. I saw that and I'm like, oh my gosh, I like this guy. Smart, smart man. I love it. Very well played. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. My name is James Kademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Larry Pendleton, CPA and tax investment coach. Larry, can you tell us that website one more time?
www.larrypendletoncpa.com.
It doesn't get easier than that. I love it. If you're listening to this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor, give it the big old thumbs up, subscribe, and of course, share it with your entrepreneurial friends. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night at the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.